Good evening, and welcome to Sleep Sanctuary, where calmness and imagination meet to guide you into a restful sleep. Dear listener, I invite you now to settle in, make yourself comfortable, and allow the cares of the day to drift away. This is a time for peace, for stillness. Close your eyes, let your body relax, and let your mind find a calm rhythm. Tonight, I wish to share a special story, one that comes from the quiet, shadowed hours of a sleepless night. It's a tale of the moon, yes, the very same moon that watches over us as we sleep, bathing the world in soft light. But tonight, this moon, well, it has a lullaby. A song that it hums gently to the restless souls below. And so, as I wandered through a night of sleeplessness, the moon's hum began to call to me. I was drawn to it, as though it had a message for me, a message of comfort, of strength, and of resilience. Now, allow yourself to drift into that space between waking and sleeping. Let the hum of the moon song fill your mind as I take you deeper into the night where the silver light dances and the stories of the moon begin to unfold. Before we begin the story, let us take a moment to settle into the peace of this moment. You've already made the wise choice to take this time for yourself, to ease into rest. So, let us start by gently guiding your mind and body toward complete relaxation. Find a position that feels comfortable, whether lying down or sitting, with your arms resting at your sides or gently placed on your lap. Take a slow, deep breath in and exhale softly. Allow the air to fill your lungs and then slowly release any tension as you breathe out. With each breath, feel the weight of your body sinking deeper into the surface beneath you, as if the ground is gently cradling you. Take another deep breath in and exhale, feeling your shoulders soften, your arms relax. Let the muscles in your legs, your back, and your face all release their hold. There is nothing to do now, nothing to think about. Simply allow yourself to be here, in this moment. With each breath, imagine the stress and worries of the day floating away like wisps of cloud, leaving you lighter and more at ease. Feel your heart beating calmly, your thoughts slowing down as if they are drifting away on a gentle breeze. Now, I want you to picture the night sky, clear, open, and full of promise. Above, the stars twinkle softly, and in the distance, the moon begins to rise. Picture its light as it spills down over the earth, soft and silver, bringing a quiet calm to everything it touches. Feel this peaceful light wash over you now, like a soft blanket, comforting and still. You are safe, you are calm. And as you listen to my voice, let the soothing hum of the moon draw you closer to rest, to a place of tranquility. Take a few more deep breaths, and when you're ready, we'll begin the journey together. It began as one of those nights we all experience now and then, the kind where sleep feels like an impossible destination. The hours stretched on, each minute ticking by as though it carried the weight of the world. I had tried everything to surrender to sleep, closing my eyes tightly, turning from one side to the other, even counting breaths. But the more I tried, the more my thoughts wandered, weaving themselves into restless patterns. I lay still, listening to the quiet hum of the world outside. There was no noise to blame for my wakefulness, no clatter of the day, no interruptions. Just silence. A deep, profound silence that wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. Yet, within that silence, I began to notice something, a faint hum, so subtle it was almost imperceptible. At first, I thought it might be my imagination, a trick of a tired mind. But as the moments passed, the hum grew clearer, more defined. It wasn't a noise one could hear with their ears, but rather something I seemed to feel in my chest, in the very core of my being. I turned my head toward the window, drawn to the pale light spilling through the curtains. The moon hung high in the sky, round and luminous, casting its silver glow over the world below. It felt alive, as if it were more than just an object in the sky. It pulsed with quiet energy, its light carrying the rhythm of the hum I had felt moments before. I couldn't explain why, but I felt a pull, an urge to step outside, to meet this quiet presence that seemed to be calling to me. My body, still tired yet unwilling to rest, seemed to move on its own. I rose from bed, careful not to disturb the stillness of the house, and made my way to the door. As I opened it, a cool breeze greeted me, brushing gently against my skin. The night was perfect, neither too cold nor too warm. The world outside seemed painted in shades of silver and shadow, as though the moon had taken a brush to the earth while the rest of us slept. I stepped onto the grass, feeling the softness beneath my feet. The hum was stronger now, though still subtle, like a quiet heartbeat in the distance. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, as if the night itself was alive with song. I stood there, bathed in the moon's light, feeling small yet connected to something vast and eternal. The restlessness that had consumed me earlier began to fade, replaced by a calm curiosity. What was this hum? Was it the song of the moon itself, or something deeper, something that had always been there, waiting for a sleepless night like this to reveal itself? As I stood in the silver glow, I realized I was no longer searching for answers. The hum, the moon, the stillness of the night, they all seemed to whisper that I didn't need to understand. I only needed to listen. I stood in the cool embrace of the night, my feet rooted to the ground as though the earth itself was holding me steady. The moon hung above, a glowing sentinel in the velvet sky, its light cascading down in waves. It wasn't an ordinary light, it felt alive, almost tangible, as if it carried with it a soft, unspoken promise of comfort. The silver glow bathed everything around me. Trees that by day were familiar now seemed ethereal, their branches adorned with a shimmering coat of moonlight. Shadows danced delicately across the ground, softer and more forgiving than the sharp edges they cast under the sun. The world felt different, gentler, quieter, as though the moon had wrapped the earth in a blanket of serenity. I took a slow step forward, my senses heightened. The grass beneath my feet was cool and damp with dew, each blade catching the moonlight like tiny crystals. The air was crisp, tinged with the faint scent of earth and leaves. It filled my lungs, sharp yet soothing, like the first sip of cold water after a long, parched day. Everywhere I looked, the silver glow seemed to weave itself into the fabric of the night. The rooftops of nearby houses gleamed faintly, their rigid lines softened by the light. A still pond reflected the moon's face perfectly, as if the earth itself had created a mirror just for this moment. I knelt beside it, my reflection shimmering in the water, haloed by the moon's radiance. For a moment, I wondered if this light was meant to reveal something deeper, some hidden truth within me. The hum I had felt earlier was stronger now, resonating through the stillness like the soft strum of an unseen harp. It didn't come from the moon directly, nor from the earth below. Instead, it seemed to vibrate within me, as though the night itself had synchronized with my heartbeat. I sat down on the cool grass, letting the moon's light wash over me fully. It felt like a gentle stream flowing over my skin, cleansing me of the restless thoughts and worries I had carried into the night. My mind, once tangled in a web of questions and uncertainties, began to quiet. The silver bath was not just a light, it was a balm, soothing the invisible wounds I hadn't even realized I was carrying. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't thinking about tomorrow or the days that had come before. The past and the future melted away, leaving only the present, the hum, the light, the stillness. It was as if the moon, in its quiet brilliance, was reminding me of a truth I had forgotten, that peace is not something we must chase. Sometimes it finds us when we least expect it, wrapping us in its light like a gift. And so, I stayed there, letting the moonlight pour over me, feeling as though I had become a part of the night itself. In that moment, I didn't need answers or explanations. I needed only the silver bath of the moon, and its quiet reassurance that I was exactly where I was meant to be. As I sat under the moon's silvery glow, the hum I had felt all evening seemed to grow stronger, more distinct. It wasn't loud or intrusive, but steady, like the deep, resonant notes of a faraway drum or the whisper of a melody carried by the breeze. It seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once, weaving itself into the stillness of the night. I closed my eyes and let the sound envelop me. It wasn't just something I could hear, it was something I could feel. The hum resonated deep within me, vibrating softly in my chest, as if it was in harmony with the rhythm of my heartbeat. It was slow, calming, and strangely familiar, like a forgotten lullaby from my childhood. With every passing moment, the hum grew clearer, taking on a subtle, rhythmic cadence. It was neither words nor a tune I could place, yet it carried a meaning I understood instinctively. It spoke not in language, but in emotion, a soothing wave that wrapped around me like a gentle embrace. I opened my eyes and looked up at the moon. It hung there, glowing and steady, as though it had always been watching, waiting for this moment. Its light pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly, in time with the hum. For the first time, I felt as if the moon itself was alive, a presence, ancient and wise, sharing its silent song with those who cared to listen. The hum wasn't just a sound, it was a story. It spoke of resilience, of enduring through the ages without faltering. It carried the weight of countless nights, countless lives, countless moments of quiet perseverance. It reminded me of how the moon remains constant, even as the world below it changes, even as storms rage and days pass. It is always there, steadfast and enduring, offering its light to those who need it. I felt my own thoughts begin to align with the hum, as if the moon's song was guiding me toward something deeper within myself. Memories surfaced, moments of struggle, of doubt, of feeling lost. But with them came a quiet realization I had endured. Like the moon, I had remained through it all, even when it felt like I might fade away. The hum seemed to say, "You are stronger than you know. You have always been enough." A soft breeze stirred, carrying the moon's rhythm through the trees and over the grass. I tilted my head back, letting the sound and the light wash over me completely. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the moon, but to something greater, something infinite. The hum wasn't just the moon's song, it was the song of the night, of the universe itself, and somehow it had become my song, too. I sat there, still and quiet, allowing the hum to fill the spaces within me that had felt empty for so long. It wasn't just comforting, it was healing, as though the moon's light and sound were mending something I hadn't realized was broken. And so, I listened, letting the moon's hum guide me deeper into the stillness of the night. As I sat bathed in moonlight, the hum began to shift, almost imperceptibly, as if it was weaving a message into the stillness. It wasn't loud or urgent, it was soft, patient, and unyielding, like the steady lapping of waves against the shore. I leaned into it, letting its rhythm guide my thoughts. The hum seemed to speak, not with words, but with feelings, memories, and quiet truths. It was a voice without sound, a whisper carried on the light, and it spoke of resilience. The stories it told were subtle at first, woven into the night like threads of silver. Images and emotions surfaced in my mind, moments from my own life. Times when I had felt fragile, overwhelmed, as though the weight of the world might break me. The hum seemed to wrap around those memories, not erasing them, but softening their sharp edges, like a river smoothing a jagged stone. And then it shifted again. The memories of struggle gave way to something else, moments of quiet triumph. Times when I had found strength I didn't know I possessed. Times when I had endured simply by taking one more step, one more breath. The hum seemed to say, "See? You have faced the storms. You are still here." The moonlight seemed brighter now, casting its glow over everything around me. The trees, the grass, even the shadows, all of it felt alive, connected, as though the earth itself was breathing in harmony with the hum. And I realized resilience isn't always loud or heroic. Sometimes it's as simple as standing still, as simple as holding on. The moon's hum whispered tales of others who had endured, the countless lives that had unfolded under its light. Generations of people who had struggled, loved, lost, and carried on. The hum carried their strength, their stories, as if the moon had gathered them all and now offered them as a gift to anyone willing to listen. In that moment, I felt small but not insignificant. I was a single thread in a vast tapestry, but every thread mattered. The moon's light and hum reminded me that resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about bending without breaking, about finding light even in the darkest nights. I closed my eyes and let the hum sink deeper into me. It wasn't just a reminder of resilience, it was a call to remember my own. A quiet voice within whispered, "You've been here before, and you will be here again. You are stronger than you know." When I opened my eyes, the world around me seemed different, not because it had changed, but because I had. The same moon hung in the sky, the same light bathed the earth, but now I felt as though I carried a part of it within me. And as the hum continued, I realized that the moon wasn't teaching me anything new. It was simply helping me remember what I had always known, that I too, could endure, just as it had for countless nights before this one. The hum of the moon seemed to shift once again, carrying with it something deeper, an invitation, a call. It wasn't loud or forceful. Instead, it was gentle, steady, and persistent, like the tide urging the shore to come closer. It felt as though the moon was speaking directly to me, not through words, but through feeling, through memory. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the pull of its rhythm. And then, as if carried by the moonlight itself, memories began to surface, not just images, but emotions, sensations, fragments of who I was and who I had been. These weren't the memories of challenges or triumphs I had already reflected on. No, these were quieter moments, the kind that get buried beneath the noise of daily life. I saw myself as a child, standing in the rain, tears mingling with the droplets on my face. I remembered feeling so small, so powerless, yet even then, something within me had urged me to keep going. The memory faded, replaced by another, a younger version of me sitting alone in the stillness of a new morning, watching the first rays of sunlight stretch across the horizon. It was a moment of quiet hope, a reminder that no matter how heavy the night feels, the morning always comes. The moon's hum seemed to guide me deeper into myself, its rhythm like a thread pulling me back through the fabric of my life. With each memory, I felt a quiet truth emerging. I had always carried the strength I needed. It had been there in the hardest times, waiting patiently for me to reach for it. The moonlight grew brighter around me, its glow illuminating not just the world, but the parts of me I had long forgotten. The hum whispered, "Remember who you are. Remember what you've overcome. Remember the light within you." Tears filled my eyes, not from sadness, but from a profound sense of connection to the moon, to the earth, and to myself. I had spent so much time searching for answers, for strength, for reassurance, but in that moment, I realized I didn't need to search. Everything I needed was already here, within me. The hum of the moon felt like a conversation now, an intimate exchange between its ancient wisdom and my soul. It reminded me of the times I had doubted myself, the times I had questioned my worth, and then gently replaced those doubts with a quiet certainty I was enough. I had always been enough. As I opened my eyes, the world seemed sharper, more alive. The silver light of the moon illuminated everything around me, but it also illuminated something within me, a part of myself that I had forgotten, but now felt impossible to ignore. The moon's call wasn't just to remember the past. It was a call to remember me, my strength, my resilience, my ability to endure and grow. And as the hum quieted, I felt a deep peace settle over me, as though the moon had given me a gift I could carry into every night to come. The moon hung quietly in the sky, its hum fading into the stillness, as if it had said all it needed to say. And yet, its presence lingered, not as a sound, but as a feeling, a steady, comforting weight, like the warmth of a hand resting gently on my shoulder. I stayed there for a while, seated on the cool grass, letting the stillness settle over me. The night was so quiet that I could hear my own breath, soft and steady, each exhale mingling with the calm of the world around me. For the first time in what felt like ages, my mind wasn't racing. The moon had spoken, and now it was my turn to respond, not with words, but with silence, with presence. The quiet wasn't empty, it was full, brimming with a profound sense of connection. I could feel the earth beneath me, solid and steady, cradling me like an old friend. The stars above twinkled faintly, each one a distant light bearing witness to my moment of peace. And the moon, constant, unyielding, watched over it all, its silver light a quiet reminder that I was never truly alone. The hum, though no longer audible, remained within me. It had settled into the very core of my being, a soft rhythm that echoed my heartbeat. And as I sat there, I realized something simple yet powerful. The moon's song wasn't just a gift, it was a reflection. It had shown me not something new, but something I already carried, the resilience, the strength, the quiet light within myself. The restless thoughts that had kept me awake earlier now seemed distant, like echoes of a storm that had long since passed. In their place was a deep stillness, not the kind that demands quiet, but the kind that invites peace. I felt no urgency to move, no rush to understand or explain. I simply was, and for the first time in a long while, that was enough. I looked up at the moon, its glow soft and steady, and offered a quiet thank you, not in words, but in a way I can't quite describe. It was a gratitude that flowed from my heart, a response to the gentle call it had extended. As the night wore on, the moon began its slow descent toward the horizon, its light dimming just slightly. But the hum, the connection, the peace it had offered, it stayed. It would always stay. I carried it with me now, like a faint melody that could be recalled whenever the world grew too loud, whenever I forgot the quiet strength within me. Eventually, I stood, my body lighter, my heart fuller. The world around me was the same, yet it felt entirely different, softer, more forgiving. As I walked back to the house, I glanced over my shoulder one last time. The moon shone on, steadfast and silent, its work done for the night. And as I lay down, sleep finally found me, not as an escape, but as a gentle embrace, guided by the quiet response of a soul that had remembered its own light. you.